Index. We have Siddharth Amalian, the business entrepreneur for Twinery, and Fusita Kore, the Chief Operating Officer for Hydramani's Discovery Lab. You guys all have a mic? Great. So I'm going to ask each of you to just take, 1 to 2 minutes. I'll yell if you go longer than that. To kind of just give who you are, what you're doing, just a brief overview of what you're doing.
So I'm Asim Boma. Good afternoon, everyone. My personal journey with Brandix has been for over 10 years, and I have been in manufacturing, marketing, and HR. But a couple of years ago, there were a group of young executives who came up with this idea of creating a brand out of Sri Lanka, which can probably go on to become global. And that really excited me. So I took that upon myself and joined that team in the journey to start a global brand.
Fantastic.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fusita Kore from Hydramani Discovery Lab. I've been working in the apparel industry for around 17 years. Again, held multiple roles in merchandising, production, also SAP on the system side of things. Worked in the industry and then took a break from the industry, went into strategic planning, and somehow the fashion industry came calling again, and there was an opportunity to work with Hydramani, and I joined an operation which is essentially a new operation for our group. It's the first time that we are venturing into a center of excellence or an innovation center, specifically targeting the denim business. So it was an exciting opportunity, and here I am.
You know you can never escape from the fashion industry once you're here.
I found out.
Sid.
Hi guys, my name is Sid, and I am a part of MAS, specifically the innovation arm of MAS called Twinery, as you guys can see up over here. My personal journey, I started off in the software industry in the US, and then when I came back and joined MAS, I started on the production floor, similar to Hasib over here, and then moved into Twinery, focusing purely on the integration of technology and apparel, and more than just the development of technology and apparel, but also looking at how we can commercialize technology and apparel in this day and age.
Great. Well, Sid, then let's start with you. Why don't you kind of give me some insights into how Twinery got started and how it came to being?
Sure, yeah. So Twinery is about 4 years old now. We started off just being called MAS Innovation. And really this is part of a journey that started by us working with we work very closely with our customers, with some of our bigger customers, and we wanted to offer them something a little bit more than what they were getting in terms of just product design and product development. So we set aside a centralized innovation function to really go out and with a focus on open innovation. So instead of looking at sustaining innovations, which are just incremental improvements, we wanted Twinery to focus on transformative and disruptive innovations that could really look at taking a problem and finding a completely different solution to it, and even looking at other industries like the automobile industry or the electronics industry to help us find processes and products to enhance our own industry.
Where'd the name come from?
That's a good question. So it came from the combination of intertwine, which is got something to do with thread, and the word refinery. So we put those two together and came up with Twinery.
Great. Fusita, can you kind of give me the objective behind the Discovery Lab from Hydramani and what you guys are trying to accomplish?
Yes, in terms of Hydramani Discovery Lab, as a group, we have the vision to be one of the global leaders in the design and development of denim jeans. So in terms of our journey, we understand we can't compete as an industry on price alone. It has to move on to innovation, whilst also doing the right thing in terms of sustainability. So what we set out to do was to create a platform or a place where all our creative people can work together, from our design teams, our wash teams, our product development teams, and create like an open canvas where everybody works together and we can design and develop the best possible product that is commercially viable.
Great. So Moose, where did that name come from?
It was just something we came up with. So the real idea behind when we came up with Moose Clothing Company, what really excited me was we wanted to take it global, but the start was to be in Sri Lanka. And when we looked at it, we want to do some market research and see what sort of space as a brand, how we'll cater to it. When we were doing the market research, initially we came across men's pants. Okay, the men's pants are essentially men's chinos, but we came across in Sri Lanka. We found the product to be boring. What was available probably hadn't changed from when my grandparents were wearing it. The style was boring, the colors. Then the next thing which really hit us when we looked at the product was the price. Now in that price, what we realized, the cost of production was only about 20% of it. So the 80% of the retail price was really getting lost in the cost of distribution. The consumer, the end consumer, was not getting any value. And finally, the quality of the product itself was average, what was available in Sri Lanka. So that's how we began the journey for Moose, and we thought that...
I'm pointing at your pants. Are those the Moose pants?
Yes, they
Okay.
are. They are. So that's how the journey for Moose began, and we thought that we'll take this journey to the world and global pretty much, of giving value, great trendy products, and of high quality.
And what's been the biggest challenge so far from a branding perspective?
So if we take, we've taken a very slow and conservative approach to launching this brand. And what has happened is, therefore, the challenges have been very minimal. Touch wood, they've been very minimal. But not to say that we've had similar challenges to any other startup. Those are just common challenges. But luckily, major challenges have been minimal so far.
Okay. And so you guys are mostly working in denim, right?
Yes, we see denim as a staple in the fashion world. You take denim jeans, it's been around for hundreds of years, and it has a way of kind of reinventing itself year after year. So it's a product that really never goes out of fashion. But one thing that most consumers or end users don't understand is the environmental impact that denim has in terms of the entire manufacturing process. So as manufacturers, I think we all have a responsibility to understand that and to try and provide consumers with a product that they can wear, their favorite product, that they can wear free of guilt, and they understand. So that's the rationale, and that's why we focus on this product.
Fantastic. So Sid, from MAS is a big company, successful company. How's it been to kind of get them to change their mindset and to focus on technology change and trying to change the core values? What's that like?
Well, I don't think there's any need to change the core values, but you're right about that mindset, because the mindset when you think about production in the apparel industry is a very fixed mindset, and where failure is not an option, and for good reason. You can't have a situation where you're on the production line and you have a quality issue, and then you can't just say, you know what, it doesn't matter, let's just send that on to the customer. No, it doesn't work that way, at least on the production flow. However, in innovation and in twinery, it's a completely different ballgame where failure is an option. In fact, it's not just an option, it's recognized and it's rewarded. And you really need to have not not just a resistance to that, but also what I mean by a growth mindset is you need to be able to understand that your capabilities and your abilities today are not fixed, and there is an ability to learn and to grow as well. And that's part of what having this new mindset is all about. Oftentimes for us, it's meant that we needed to hire people from outside the industry, bring them in. So we have, for example, at Twinery, people from the aerospace industry, from, like I said, the automobile industry as well, and also people from the education sector. So we do have a broad range of people within the company, and it's not purely apparel focused, even though the technology that we create is very closely related to apparel and textile.
What's the coolest technology you think right now? What's the thing that you're most excited about?
Well, I don't think I can talk about that. No, I think there are a few things that I can talk about, and what I've been working on in the last few years while I was at Twinery is one technology is where we've integrated lighting into apparel and called it Firefly. And we've launched that into the market, and we actually received an award at CES 2 years ago. And a second technology is more in terms of some of our printing technology that we have, where we're able to actually take blank garments and print on them and actually color them instead of taking them into a dye house and dyeing the fabric and then cutting and sewing. You can actually cut and sew braid and then print around it and add color finish to it. So I think it was Chris and Martin who were talking in the morning about dye bands and this whole, can you see us living in a world without color? No, what I was thinking when you guys were saying that is there's no need to live in a world without color. We can just approach the problem in a different way and look to solve it through printing and through other ways where we're not actually using dye houses, we're not wasting tons of water, and we're not extruding chemicals into the environment. There are other ways of approaching the problem.
Great. So tell me a little bit about the foundation that the Discovery Lab is built on.
Yes, it's essentially a foundation of three things. One being co-creation. We want to create an environment where our customers, our suppliers, they can come work with our teams and basically go crazy when it comes to product. They can try out new things. They can, like Sid mentioned, there is no fear of failure. But the mantra would be to try and fail fast, so you move on to your next project. The second area is sustainability. So as most of us around the room will know, denim is not the most sustainable garment, and essentially in terms of the whole process related to washing. So we will invest in machinery that would make the whole process related to washing more greener and more sustainable and use less water. The third area is related to digitization. If you take the industry on the whole, especially the sample process, it can be very costly as well as time consuming. So we will adopt tools like 3D sampling and try to shorten the lead times as well as the cost. And when I talk of digitization, also we must look at all the data that we have on hand. As manufacturers, we are privy to a lot of information from our customers, what they buy, when they buy. We have all that information. But we were thinking of using it, in putting it into some data analytics tools and using it to help our customers make their purchase decisions. So essentially the 3 points: sustainability, co-creation, and digitization. So the areas.
Great. I saw you nodding your head as you were on the data analytics and knowing your customer. I mean, when you have your own brand, you have a direct interaction with the customer. Are you guys doing anything around data analytics and data management as far as that goes?
Yes, so Brandix, as a group, we take it very seriously, big data and analytics, because I think like someone was saying earlier, there's so much data available and we are still figuring out on how to use it correctly and make the correct decisions with it. So yes, very much.
Great. Well, I'm going to open the floor to questions. Anybody have any tough questions for the young guns here? Let's see if we can stump these geniuses. Come on, there must be something. I know it's late. Okay, well then I'll have to ask some more questions. Was that one up there? Yeah, go ahead, please, Kate.
Yes, we are using the heat index at Hyderabad.
Great. Are either of you two using it?
From an MAS perspective, I believe we are, but that's something that I can answer in more detail later.
Great. Yeah, Jane.
Again, it has to do with acceptance from design teams, and it's about creating the right platform and the environment to enable, say, the design teams from our customers to come. Say we deal with brands like Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, Levi's. So as long as we create that environment and give them the comfort that we have the necessary tools to be able to work with them on an even platform, we believe that the challenge can be overcome.
Any other questions out there? Let me turn the lights up. Oh, all the way in the back.
Hi. Is the innovation that you are working on is only demand driven, or there are some things that you envision and then go on and to develop in it?
Yeah, so I'll speak from Twinery's perspective. We're actually split into largely 3 different silos. So we have what we call Discovery Labs, which is focusing 3 to 5 years in the future and looking at technologies that we believe will disrupt one of our growth themes within 3 to 5 years. The second is what we call the Open Innovation Hub, where we actually go out and research and understand what's going on in other industries and bring that in. And the third is what we call FutureWorks. And at FutureWorks, we're looking at consumer trends and trying to understand what those trends are and how we can meet the needs, or meet the unmet needs and fulfill the unmet needs of that consumer. So that's how we look at it, both from a consumer and a demand perspective, as well as a technology perspective, and looking to see how we can predict what technology will disrupt the industry 3 to 5 years from now.
Great. Any other questions out there? We have 7 minutes. So, okay, well then, let me see. Oh, we got one over here. Yes. All the way in the back.
I would like to know a little bit more about when you said that we can give a dying option and the solution has to be tackled differently. Would you like to say something more about it? I'm more interested in knowing how technology is helping this fashion dyeing issues, which is very, very polluting.
So if I understand the question, it was around fashion and around dyeing and the technology around dyeing.
Yeah.
So from our perspective, there's when you think about dyeing technology, you can look at sustaining innovations and incremental technologies that will look at maybe reducing the wastage by 5% or 10%, or looking at the actual dyeing machines and trying to be more efficient, which all of those efforts really do contribute to reducing the impact. But another way of looking at it, and at Twinery we think about doing things in a more transformative or completely disruptive manner. So we actually looked at dyeing very differently, and we said dyeing actually is just about coloration, and coloration could easily be solved through printing as well. And so that's why we looked at trying to understand and develop technology that helps you print on clothing directly. And so not only does that reduce the environmental impact or the negative environmental impact, but it also improves speed to market and also can allude to mass customization as well, because you can print different colors and different patterns and different designs. It broadens design flexibility as well, so from a designer perspective you have that much more room to express yourself. And so this type of technology, yes, it started from the issue of how do we dye clothing in a more effective manner, but it has so many other positive externalities as well.
Great. Oh, there's another question there.
Hi. In the morning, I think this gentleman was talking about China, and they were saying that this Alibaba and other two companies, like sharing data. Being 3 giants of Sri Lankan industry, like, do you all share information with you all? Is there any time that or certain time that you will you support any information like to the other people?
So are you asking, is there cooperation going on between the different companies? That's what you're asking?
Yes.
Well, I've only been around here for about 10 years, and there's a pretty competitive group, this group. But, I'm sure there is some kind of cooperation going on. Is there any cooperation across your initiatives?
I think we are fiercely competitive, but when it comes to Sri Lanka, we cooperate to make sure that the same message sort of goes across as industry. So yes, when it comes to certain areas, we do cooperate.
Just to add to that, like specifically related to data, I don't believe there's any sharing of data between the companies or among the companies, but we do sit on the same panels together. I work with Asib on the future leaders of the JAV, so likewise we do cooperate for the betterment of the industry, so there is a lot of cooperation that does take place.
And it's cooperation that needs to take place as well. So from a Sri Lanka perspective, us working together, not just in the previous generation, but in this generation going forward as well, it's something that is required.
So just real quick from each one of you, what's the future, the big thing for each one of you with your organizations?
So for most clothing company, we want to be, so we've started small. Currently we're selling in Sri Lanka and the Middle East. So the next step will be to become regional, and then after that global. But what are the key things which we, when we go global or expand, we'll make sure that we give value to our consumers. So when we talk about value is where we want to control the cost of distribution and maintain it and not have it beyond 30% of the retail price. So that's the journey we are on, and that's our future plans.
Well, for us, from a Hydromani Discovery Lab perspective, I spoke of the 3 foundations of the pillars. So the true success of that would be, like we spoke of co-creation, when everybody is comfortable, our customers, our suppliers, they all come in, walk in through our doors and actually come and work with us. Likewise, in terms of sustainability, nowadays what we do can be measured. There is software to measure it. You can see how much water you use, how much energy you use, the processors, the chemical usage. So when the success would be to have all our jeans and all our garments manufactured in what is termed a green scope. And of course, in terms of digitization, bringing down the cost of samples, the number of samples, and all this should kind of culminate in us making Sri Lanka the #1 destination for producing sustainable jeans.
And from an MAS perspective and from a Twinery perspective, I think we've spent the last 4 years being on an adventure of innovation and really going out there and seeing new technologies, and we've learned a lot. And I think in the short term, the next few years, we're really going to look at how we can commercialize and bring some of these innovations to market and bring them to the world. In the long term, from an MAS perspective, in our industry we talk about verticality. We talk about going through and going up the value chain. I foresee down the line, if MAS were not just vertical but were a circular company, that's something that I think would be an inspiring vision for anybody to join as well, and something that will help MAS endure not just in this generation but in the next generation as well.
Well, on that great note, I think we'll end the panel, and I want to thank all 3 of you, and I just have to say that every time we do one of these young gun panels, it gives me great hope for the industry here. Great job.